Hello, welcome to this Tropical Storm Helene update. We're going to be updating you every night on the tropical storm that's developing in the Gulf. Before I get to that, I'll just briefly talk about our weather today. A lot of clouds around today, though. However, there was some breaks later this afternoon in the evening. We actually had some breaks in the clouds. That's what it looked like. I already showed you that. Let's show you another. Is the sunset here. You can see a lot of cirrus around, but other than that, it was nice. Of course, a cool day, but except in my place, I had all the windows open. Couldn't get the temperature much below 75 because the alley's still in the mid-60s. So, no surprise. And it smells like pee out my window, as I kind of was pretty upset about last night. I just got to keep the air conditioner on because you can't get fresh air in this place. Just briefly go over our weather today. Temperatures, still no rainfall. We didn't really get much rain at all. Temperatures generally were in the low 60s and upper 50s, so if your window doesn't face an alley, you're going to probably have temperature around 57 degrees out your window. A nice, cool night again, and the dew points of nice and comfortable, the low 50s. We've had east wind all day, so very comfortable. Highs only in the upper 60s, not even making it to 70 degrees. The lows probably not cooling off that much at night because of the cloud cover, so not a big difference between the night and daytime temperatures. Mid-50s for lows because, again, we have all the cloud cover around. I'm not really going to talk too much about our weather yet. We're going to first go talk about Helene. So let's get the latest on Helene. There's another area they're watching. But first we're going to talk about the latest on Helene, the latest public advisory. Helene is strengthening as of 8 p.m. Its location is 19.8 north, 85.3 west, about 115 miles east-southeast of Cozumel, Mexico, and about 145 miles south of the western tip of Cuba. Maximum sustained winds are now up to 60 miles an hour, moving west-northwest at 12 miles an hour. The minimum central pressure, 991 millibars, 29.26 inches, and that is going to be dropping pretty quick. And there's going to be a strengthening of the storm, obviously. If we go look at the forecast track that we have here, you'll see that it looks like it's going to be impacting that Big Bend area in Florida again. It could be as a major hurricane. It looks like it's not going to hit Tampa directly. It looks like it's going to go between Tampa and the Panhandle area there. But that's where they're having it. They're having it making a landfall Thursday night. So that seems to be at least it's going to be moving at a fairly good clip. It won't be a slow-moving storm. That is the good news in all of this. But the storm could be pretty intense. So we'll show you what they've got posted right now. You can see hurricane warnings are already up for this area. That's the red area right there. Hurricane warning, also part of the Yucatan as well. Hurricane warnings posted for this area, Florida, right here. So I guess that's between Tampa and probably Panama City Beach, somewhere around there. And then south of there, we have tropical storm warnings in effect. And then on the East Coast, we have tropical storm watches because they could still see some tropical storm conditions as a result of this storm. And the weird thing about it is we're not going to see any rain from that at all. So going back to the weather and hazards map, we can go to the box office here. And I think they might have something about what happened in Cape Cod the other day because that stalled storm brought a lot of rain to Cape Cod. And let me see if they have anything on it. It does not look like they do. So you're going to have to give me just a second because I forgot to bring it up in the last weather report. So here we go. Sorry about that. But I forgot to bring this up the last time. While we were dry throughout the weekend, the Cape was getting a lot of rain. How about almost 7 inches, over 7 inches of rain in some spots. So that was from that stalled storm that was over the Cape. The Cape kind of sticks out, and I figured I'd bring that up. That happened over the weekend, but nothing on the Weather Service office about it, I guess. But anyway, getting back to Helene, let's go and take a look at the latest satellite image of Helene. We have this is our satellite here. Well, first, I don't think it's going to show up in the CONUS yet. Probably not. I can look at that, but I don't think it's going to show up there. You can see that there are some heavy. Yeah. It is showing up. Okay, so here we go. We have this cold front coming. We have this cold front approaching. We have this cutoff system over here. This is the system that was over the Cape bringing all the rain. Now it's just kind of sitting over there. And then here's Helene right here. I'd like to see what it looked like. Just a slightly longer loop, 60. Kind of just want to see what the daylight image looks like. So you can definitely see very dry air in the west, completely dry. As you see, there's a fire in Arizona there, but very dry air in the west, completely clear over there. It looks like very, very dry over there. But this is Helene right here developing. So let's look at go to Helene. Get this to low. The site is being very slow. Well, waiting for that satellite loop to loop. Maybe we'd look at this one here. Tropical Tidbits. So this is the Tropical Tidbits one here, enhanced. And you can see, look at the pink. That's a lot of convection going on right there. So it's definitely undergoing strengthening. It's probably going to be a hurricane by tomorrow morning. And once it gets past this little pinch point here with the Yucatan and the western Cuba, the thing is probably going to really take off like a rocket. Let's see. We still waiting. Here we go. Here's the satellite image of it. So you can see once this thing gets north of this area here, it's going to start taking off like a rocket. It's going to get strong pretty quick. Going to this area here, Florida here, we'll just go to observations here, temperatures. And you'll see, again, all the warnings that are out for this system here. All right. And we'll go, now that we looked at the satellite imagery, let's look at some of the spaghetti models here. And you'll see this track's pretty consistent. There's pretty good agreement. Of course, once they get in, the storm is basically going to make a left turn, because we're going to explain how this is all going to work. Very unusual because of the blocking pattern in the east. You can see we're pretty certain as to where the center is going to make landfall. Fortunately, it looks like it's going to stay away from Tampa, it looks like. But it's still going to hit the Florida Panhandle area. And they've dealt with a lot of devastating hurricanes, as we know. I think Michael was a really severe hurricane that hit. That was a Category 5, I think. So that area just seems to be an area that gets hit a lot. And if you look at the intensity, you could see almost all the models take it up to a major hurricane. Category 3, who knows, maybe even a Category 4 is all entirely possible out of this storm that we have. So let's go to the models. And we're going to take this to the larger view, the North American view, just to show you how everything is going to, well, maybe we get away using the CONUS view for this all. So I'm going to show you the again what's going to happen and why the storm is taking the track it does. You see this big block over the east, all right? So you have this low that's diving down here. Looks like a little cutoff low that's diving down. And that's going to actually hook up with Helene. So it's diving down into the central south. And then we have this ridge, and this is going to capture Helene and then pull it in. See how it kind of just pulls it? It's very weird setup. So you see the setup we have. Meanwhile, we stay in the dry air, and then we don't really get to see anything, any moisture from it, because it's suppressed from that, because of that ridge that you see. So you can see how it's just capturing it like that. And because of the setup, you can see it's probably not going to weaken as much as it could, because it's going to be getting energy transfer from this low here. So even further inland areas of Georgia, perhaps Atlanta, are still going to get some pretty rough conditions out of this thing. But you can see the setup that goes on here. This really shows it very well. We can look at the European as well. It's probably going to show the same thing. Pretty much, yep. The European's even stronger with the ridging in Canada. This is an insane ridge over the Great Lakes there. That's a very, very strong ridge. But you see how it just captures it like that. Like that. Almost like a catcher's mitt. Just catches it like that. So that is the setup that we are seeing with Helene in the upper air. All right. Going back to GFS here, we'll take also look at the 700 to 300 humidity. All right, because that's always important. All right. And you'll see here that we get a little bit of that green going over us there, but that's very misleading. We're probably not going to see that much rain at all from this. And then we have that high that's going to come in and kind of suppress this thing down, literally. So it just kind of hits the high, and then it hits the high, and then there's no way you're going to get this like a brick wall. It's going to get captured by this low, but look at how strong it is, even far inland. So this is going to cause a lot of damage, even far inland, because of that energy transfer that we're seeing. Even though there's some dry air around it, there will be dry air that works around the backside. It's gonna almost be like, you know what, this setup kind of reminds me of Sandy. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Sandy, except it's happening a little more over land, but the setup is still the same. So we'll go look at the surface now. Here's the surface. And you can see it gets captured by this low. It's the same kind of setup that we had with Sandy. So that's going to help to keep the storm strong, even when it makes its way inland. That's what happened with Sandy. And look at how tight that storm is while it's centered over Georgia. They could still be dealing with hurricane conditions. There's going to be a lot of power outages from this storm. It's going to be a big, big mess. And if you're in Georgia, man, Georgia, everybody's talking about Florida. Georgia is going to be dealing with a lot of problems. Not just that, but also the flooding. I mean, we can look at the total accumulated rain that this is going to bring, and I'm sure they're going to get a ton of rain out of it in parts of Georgia. Yeah, depending on where you are, you could see a foot of rain or more from this thing. So that is definitely the concern. You can see us, we're barely getting anything, of course. So let's go to the southeast view. Take a closer look at this. I'm going to change this over to the radar view. So you can see the rain is going to start moving into Florida. The outer band's probably late tomorrow night. And then as we get to Thursday, that's when conditions deteriorate. And then on Friday, you can see the storm is just going to race. It's going to get pulled up really fast. That's the other thing. So it's not going to really give it time to weaken. And you're going to have some very strong winds, even in Atlanta, going into Tennessee and Kentucky. More like Tennessee, I think, eastern Tennessee. But I think Atlanta, Georgia's going to see the worst of it. But that's a pretty wrapped up low right there. So there's going to be a lot of wind with that low that you're going to have. And if we look at the wind here on here, you'll see this is going to probably be landfalling as a Category 3, maybe a high-end Category 3. And as it gets inland, you can see the wind is still pretty strong. And this is kind of misleading, I think. I think the winds are going to be worse than that. Obviously, the worst of the winds are going to be to the right of the storm. And there may also be severe weather with this, too, as well. So we go from the National Hurricane Center to the Storm Prediction Center. And I'll see if they put any alerts for severe weather out for this that comes day. We're going to have to look at day 3, I'm assuming. So they do have a slight risk on the east side of the storm there. So, yeah, that is... let me find where we were. Okay, so, yeah, this is going to be a pretty rough storm. And it's going to be rough inland, too. So even if you're not at the coast, this is going to be... I wonder if they're going to extend hurricane warnings into Georgia with that, because that's just going to get pulled up so fast from that low and then pivoted around it's like it's going into a catcher's mitt. Boom. I mean, it's very weird, but you see weird things when the jet stream is not normal, and that's kind of like what we're seeing at this point. Now landfall is, I think, see if we can pick it up on some of the short range models. Let's see. I don't think we're going to be able to, but let's. I don't think so. This is the HRRR. It's probably not going to take us all the way. Nah, it's not. It takes us some of the way. Okay. So here's the landfall. You can see the rain moving in there, and then there's that landfall right into Thursday. And look at how deep that low is still as it moves inland. And we're going to talk more about this tomorrow night, I think. We'll have more model data on this. But there's going to be a lot of wind even inland from this, and it's going to be a lot of power outages. I would say that the state of Georgia, probably at least half the state, is probably going to lose power from this. I would not be surprised with all those winds there. So let's visualize things a little more. We're going to go to the windy.com model. We have windy, we have vent2sky. We're going to use all of them, by the way. There's our flow sitting out there. But it's just sitting there. Like I said, strange things happen when you have no jet stream. So go here and change this to wind gusts. And show you, we'll visualize. We'll have two different enhanced ways of visualizing this storm as it comes in. Let's see, the European, not nearly as impressive as the GFS. The Euro may be a little too on the weak side. These wind gusts, yeah, it doesn't even have it as a Category 3. So obviously, because of that, it's going to be weaker as it moves inland. I think that's completely wrong. Not even gonna bother with that. Let's go to vent2sky. That's the other model we can use here. Let's see what we got here. So move this to 5 o'clock. Move this to Thursday, and let's see what this has. So this is a little more realistic in the way it looks. So yeah, these are going to be your wind gusts here coming in. But even when it makes its way inland, look at this. We're inland and we're still dealing with wind gusts over hurricane force. This is what models like this? This uses the HRRR and then it uses the Icon. And it's going to move fast too. That's the thing. So here is Helene, and you can see even around Augusta, all these areas are. It doesn't have it going over Atlanta. This tracks a little more to the. Let me see. We change this to the GFS. Yeah, that's better. I'd rather use the GFS. But you can see here the very strong winds that are going to occur, even when it's inland. You're going to get a lot of wind out of this. It's not until 2 o'clock. It's finally getting absorbed into the larger system here. Friday. So it's going to be a very, very quick moving storm. It's going to race through Georgia. But it's going to be like a freight train, but it's going to cause a lot of damage when it does so. And that's the concern that we have. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of power outages, trees down, and it's going to take a while to get the power back on. And there's going to also be some flooding too. So even though you're inland, everybody's talking about Florida, but honestly, I think the biggest damage is going to be in Georgia. I think Georgia is going to be the hardest hit state by Helene. That's my prediction. So anyway, let's go and talk a little bit about our weather. I'll move this over to our area as far as tomorrow goes here. Here's the HRRR model for tomorrow, and it does have maybe some showers getting in here, perhaps maybe tomorrow night, and nothing really all that impressive. Here we are Thursday. Actually, it's developing like a little squall line over there. Here's Friday. That's kind of interesting. So this is the HRRR. Obviously, I should really probably pull this out a little more so we get a just better idea of what's happening in our area. And I actually should go back to the GFS, I think, at this point. So here's the GFS. Here's Helene. We're not going to see any of the moisture from Helene. No rain at all is going to make it up. The GFS may try to bring some up into South Jersey, but it's going to hit that ridge, and then that ridge just builds on down and kind of just pushes it to the south, though we may be dealing with some of the clouds from it. So originally it looked like we were going to have clear skies. Now I'm not so sure. We may have to wait until next week for that. We'll have to see. But you still got this high that's building down. It's kind of suppressing it. This is the 18Z run of the GFS. Let's just go look at the 12Z run, which I kind of like using better. I think the 12Z is a little bit better. But you can see that it kind of just poof. It just goes, and then it just hits that ridge, and then goes to the left, and then we don't see any moisture from it at all right now. That's what it's looking like. But you see you got that high there. Now here's the thing. This model is a little different with next week, but that's the long-range thing. The main thing is we're not going to see any rain from Helene. I don't think we're going to see any. Maybe if you're south of Philadelphia, you might see a little bit, but this would be one way to bust the drought, but it does not look like that's what's going to be happening. So now I'll take a closer look. We go into our area, and we look at the GFS and the dew points and wind flow, which we're going to actually stick with the GFS. We'll use this one for now. So one more day with the dew points comfortable. The dew points come up tomorrow night. And Thursday, that would bring us our best chance of rain. Here comes the front, but you can see the front kind of just gets hung up off to the south there a little bit. So you got the battle between this high and the remnants of Helene, but you see the high is pushing down as the weekend goes on this GFS. This is the 12Z GFS. We can look at the 18Z GFS. See if we see any differences. Yeah, the 18Z doesn't bring the front as far south, and it doesn't push it further south until Sunday. That's the only differences we have right now. And obviously, with the 18Z, it doesn't really get us out of the clouds at all. We're supposed to have sunshine this weekend. If you look at the 12Z, let's see what the 12Z does. The 12Z kind of pushes it to the south. So this has got this unusual battle going on here, and it's always hard to predict these things as far as clouds go. But as far as rain goes, we're not going to see all that. Here's the NAM. I don't have enough of the 0Z NAM to use. Go to the 18Z NAM. Let's look at the 3-kilometer NAM. That's the other model we can use to show rain, because there is the chance that we might see a light shower tomorrow. Maybe a few heavier ones, but mainly staying off to the west. And that's the thing. Long Island not showing much. All right, there is a line. Look at this. Oh, the NAM is actually bringing a squall line through on Thursday. That would be your cold front right there. And that may make things interesting. We may get some rain with that. And I tell you, I would like a thunderstorm. That would be nice. And this looks like a nice squall line that might come through. Let's just go back to Storm Prediction Center for a moment. And this would be Thursday. So let's see. That's day 3. That's Thursday. Day 4 to 8, they don't really have anything. So the NAM's kind of developing a squall line here, and I'm wondering if that's just overdone or not. But yeah, you can see that there is a squall line there. So that's kind of interesting, right? I don't think any other models are doing that. Icon, these are all too low resolution. See, Icon even wants to bring some of the rain back into southern Jersey. I think the Icon's too weak with that high, though. I think that high is going to be stronger. So, yeah, it's really very... as far as the rainfall goes, it does not look like we're going to see that much at all. Even the RGEM has most of it over to the west of us. This is our main shot of rainfall. So here's the RGEM. RGEM basically doesn't even have that ridge there to block it. And it has some of the moisture getting in for the weekend, which I don't think is going to happen. So, yeah, the models are having trouble with this because it's just such an unusual setup. And it's really hard to say what's going to happen at this point. It all kind of depends. There's a battle going on between the ridge, and this low this low that's going to be part of what was Helene. But as far as rainfall goes, total accumulated precip, barely anything. Barely anything. This is the GFS. Does the European? I don't think the European does it. Oh, it does. Okay, European doesn't give us any. It also has us in a hole. Here we are. The RGEM obviously is the weird one. Even that one sort of has us in a hole. They all do. Icon. Let's see, Icon. The Icon also has us in a hole. So, yeah, none of the models are bringing much rainfall for us. We'll be lucky to get a quarter of an inch, and we're probably not even going to see that. Here's the NAM 12. Let's look at the NAM 12. All right, the NAM 12 seems to want to bring... that's the front. Yeah, that's that. If we get that line coming through, that could give us perhaps a half an inch, maybe an inch of rain. If that line would actually develop. Only the NAM and the HRRR are showing that. So, and whether we actually see that line, but that's our only really chance of getting any decent rain over here. It's just been incredibly dry. All the clouds we've had this week, and no rain. I mean, there's a slight chance we'll get some light showers tomorrow, later in the day, but it's slight. It's really hard to say what's going to happen. I'm going to go to the FV3, which is another model, to see what we have. And so here's the FV3, and you can see some light showers. Maybe some light showers overnight. Maybe that'll amount to something. Maybe. But I'm telling you, it's not going to be much. Hopefully we get something because things are getting dangerously dry out there. We've gone for now, how many? 15 days now without rain here on Long Island. It's not good. It's not good at all. So tomorrow we'll be back talking about Helene and perhaps maybe some chances for rain for us before the dry air returns for the weekend. So that's going to wrap it up. Good night.